and welcome to Two Pints of Maggots and a Packet of Hooks, the fishing podcast. And this is the very, very last episode of 2021. And that's why, for those of you that join on YouTube, you'll get to see my lovely little face for this opening piece. And the reason why is because I wanted to say face to face, although digitally, a big, big thank you for everybody that's listened to the show, everybody that's offered words of advice and support, and any comments that you've passed over onto social media as well. The podcast in general has grown exponentially since Series 2 began. I took a short break around May time, and since we came back, since then it really has, it's gone crazy. The word has spread, and as I've said before, as long as people keep listening, then I'll continue to keep doing these. But I need to take a break. These are quite exhausting, believe it or not. Even though they're only every couple of weeks, there's a lot of time and energy spent preparing and putting in my 100% effort, which I always do. So it's time for a break. It might be mid-November, but 5 or 6 weeks off will do me the world of good. So I want to wish everybody a happy Christmas when it comes around. And of course, I'll see you in the new year. But before I let you go, of course, for this episode, we've got a great lineup. As always, we look in the press pack where we look at the weekly press, Angling Times, social media, and of course the monthly magazines as well. Followed up by the big chat. Big chat on this episode, fantastic. We've got Mark Pollard, and the word that I used to describe Mark during the intro is iconic. He is one of the most iconic match anglers. Certainly one of the most recognised, I imagine, on the bank. So Polly will be joining me for the big chat, and it is fascinating listening, I promise you. And then last but not least, of course, we have the tackle shed. There's loads of stuff coming out in the shops all of a sudden. Maybe it was that slow boat that was stuck in the Suez Canal. I don't know, but there's lots of gear going into the tackle shops. But I've had a wander around my local shop at Fishing Evolution, and I can promise you those shelves are getting stacked, so we can have a look at that too. So without further ado, let's crack on with the big chat.
Teddy Fisher Baits specialise in the manufacture of fishing ground bait and additives. We combine a 40-year-old proven fish catching recipe and the experience of our skilled team. Fishing is an adventure, and here at Teddy Fisher, we strive to make that adventure a success. Go to www.teddyfisher.co.uk to see our full range of baits.
Hi and welcome to the big chat. And on this episode, we've got another absolute belter. For my special guest sat in the big chair for the big chat, it's Matrix-backed match fishing icon, Mr. Mark Pollard. How are you, sir?
All right, Dave. Yeah, and you should have added there Hinders consultant as well on ground baits.
You are free to add that. You've just done it yourself. Look at that. Absolutely. Yeah. No, hey, listen, I don't think I've ever used the term icon before on any of these podcasts. And I think you're number 16, if I remember rightly. So, I've never used it because I think it's one of those where the name just rolls off the tongue when it comes to match fishing. Yourself, Mark Pollard, Mark Bird, we'll get to that later on. And it's just one of those names that I think anybody that fishes matches just knows who you are. Does everyone recognise you when you're on an open?
Yeah. I'm just me. I love me fishing. I talk to anyone, and just love being on the bank. But if you can get carried away a little, because I say I'm just me, so I go to matches, I'm fishing, and I'll chat to anyone. And I've heard it so many times from different people. They've come up and said, "Oh, you spoke to Brian, mate. He was over the moon. He couldn't believe you spoke to him." But I'm just a fisherman. That's all I am. At the end of the day, I just love me fishing. And if I can help people out, I will. And if I can tell them how I'm fishing, how I'm catching, I will. If they can catch better than me, I want to know how they've done it.
And that's how you improve, isn't it?
Well, of course it is. You never stop learning fishing because it's fishing, not catching.
Yes, great. Now there's a soundbite for the listeners for sure.
Yeah. Fishing, not catching. We all want to catch. We all go fishing to catch, but we never go catching. We go fishing.
We do. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I know you've listened to a few of these podcasts before, Max, so you know there's a bit of a theme to how we run this big chat section. Essentially, it's called sort of past, present, and future. So we'll delve in a little bit sort of how you got into your fishing, what got you sort of where you are today, which is, with all the greatest respect, you know, a veteran of match angling. So it's a long career you've had so far. And then, of course, sort of your future plans as well. So how did it kick off for you, Matt? Was it your dad took you down the canal or something along those lines? How did it start?
Yeah, it has been my dad taking me and my brother fishing when we were younger. We used to go to Eaton Ford on the river. My dad was a mad pigeon racer. So we really went fishing. We went summertime a bit on the canal, but it was mainly through wintertime when the pigeon racing had stopped. We used to go all weathers on the river, on the Ouse, Eaton Ford near St Neots, on Luton Angling Club's water, and fish the river, be it flooded. Like I remember encountering us across the fields that were flooded with gear and that we'd get on higher bank and fish. And well, the rivers used to be fantastic then because you had power stations. There used to be a power station at St Neots. They just reinstalled one a few years back. But it's not the same. You used to have steam coming off the river, and you could, bleak. It was trying to get through the bleak. And as kids, we loved catching the bleak. Because they were easy to catch. And it was just catching fish. It was just brilliant. Just loved every minute. And we went from there. We went, used to go on the rivers, and we used to fish the Luton Angling Club Christmas match that was at Eaton Ford on their stretch of the Ouse there in St Neots. And that's what got us sort of into match fishing. I got into match fishing as a junior, and then that got me dad to get into the matches as well. And it just went from there. That was the start of it. So it was my dad taking us fishing, me and my brother. It was like a day out, really, because it was always winter time. I remember we used to get a fire going and put jacket potatoes in there. And yeah, it was great. The fishing was most of the day, but there was other things, you know, to run around in the woods. But it was just a day out, you know, with children.
Day out with the family, being boys, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was just being out with nature, which was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Better being stuck indoors.
Oh, absolutely. Was that competitive part because you was like with your brother? I guess you wanted to beat him straight away, didn't you?
Well, when we was fishing, we'd always use keep nets and look at what we'd caught. And my dad and his friend, they always have roach in their nets. Well, me and my brother, we had just a piece of line tied to the rod. You didn't have a reel. Yeah. Which, because it wasn't poles and whips and things, then, when you're, Christ, I'm 58, so that's like 53 years ago. It was between 5 and 7 when he was taking us. Yeah. And then when we got a reel, we could cast and we could fish deeper, and we started catching roach. But it was always, at the end, you looked at what was in the nets, who'd caught the most. And it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It's funny as well, you know, I think back as well when I was a kid and sort of matches, and I think that's what it was. It's because when you're with your mates and you just want to beat them. You know, I think once you realise that you can catch fish, that's great. And it's then, well, can you catch more than the next person? And you know, or like I remember Rob Hughes on one of the previous episodes, he said he started where he was at a crossroads. And he was either going to go to the right, and it would have been match fishing because he wanted to catch more than his mates, but actually went to the left and he wanted to catch a bigger one than his mates. And I see where that sort of line is drawn into sort of competitions or specimen world, you see.
Yeah, I think it's what's in you that drives you to carry on. With me, it was trying to catch in a swim. We'd be fishing, we were trying to catch the most out of that swim. And I remember when it was flooded, we used to ledge a cheese.
Okay.
Down the middle, and in them days you catch a chub out of any peg, but it didn't thrill me catching one sort of 2 to 3 pound chub, which was a big chub then that many years ago. But to catch lots of fish, and then fishing probably we did the Luton Angling Club Christmas match, which got us into match fishing. I wanted to win. You get that sort of winning, that competitive edge that you want to win, but not so much winning, it's improving your angling. And how's that bloke caught all them bream or he's caught all them roach? You want to do it.
Do you remember your first match win?
Yes, I do, which would have been, I think it's the Derek Tickley Cup as a junior. and it was at Eaton Ford on the river. I think it had something like £2.15. Used to catch between £1.15 and maybe £3.5 on the junior matches. But yeah, it was on the river. I remember standing in the water with my boots, because I didn't have waders then, and chucking a wade down the middle of the river and catching Danny Ruff, bleak, little dace and a few roach. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, then, when it was junior matches, a guy called John Soper run the matches, and he was getting sort of between 40 and 70 juniors on a match. But fishing was everything. Like I say, you didn't have computer games. You could sit in your bedroom, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And you used to have like coaches, but they've died out now. But yeah, it was brilliant.
You're right. There are a lot of distractions now, aren't there? And it is different. But I mean, I look across social media, and there is a bit of a resurgence. Certainly, some clubs are more productive than others. I think it's how they go about it. But what's your thoughts on sort of junior angling and kids coming through now? Do you see many on the bank on your matches?
To be fair, from COVID has created such a surge in the angling fraternity, be it if you've got a tackle shop, if you're a wholesaler, if you've got a commercial fishery. It's really boosted fishing, because people, when COVID hit and then certain restrictions were lifted, you couldn't go to a football match if you went to watch football matches. You couldn't go and play football. You couldn't go and play golf even, but you could go fishing. And a lot of people that used to go fishing got back into it. And obviously, if they'd got children, they took them, and it was just unbelievable. Go back nearly 2 years, and as COVID just lifted a little bit, it was just everybody went fishing. It was just ridiculous. And you've got a big percentage of those people that have been fishing, obviously because I do coaching as well. My coaching, the phone went, and my bookings for coaching was just stupid. And it wasn't just one-to-one. It was like I was taking like a father and son. I took a father and two daughters. Took them fishing because they couldn't do anything else. And like I'd get a phone call, I haven't been fishing probably about 20 years because I started up a family, done this, but obviously I'd just like to get back into it because it's something I can do now, but I just need like a refresher course. And the trouble is, people that hadn't been fishing, say, for 20 years...
Well, the tackle.
And actually, the fishing, the tactics, because 90% of fishing now is commercial.
Of course.
It's just such a big part of it. And where I do both, I can take people, I can take them on a commercial, I can take them natural fishing. But the beauty is seeing their faces, because it's something they probably wouldn't have done. And because of COVID, it's got people back into fishing. And like I've just said, probably 100% of the people I've took out just think, why the hell did I stop? Which is fantastic for for everybody that's involved in the fishing game, because it's just like a shot in the arm for everyone. It's just unbelievable.
It has, and I think the good thing is the license sales are buoyant as well, so they've not dropped off in those last 18 months that perhaps they could have bought a bit of kit and then decided to throw it back in the garage or the shed or whatever, but they're actually continuing going, which, long may that continue. It's great. Like I said, hopefully in time we'll see, like I say, some clubs are having a bounce with the kids, but hopefully over long term that will grow even further as well. And they'll come to that, crossroads, match fishing, specimen fishing, maybe a bit of fly fishing, who knows? But as long as people are fishing, it's all good for us, isn't it?
Yeah, but you have got, it's like commercials with youngsters fishing. It's a big upturn in like people going and that have carried on going. I know as the weather hits, I know we haven't had severe winters like we used to have now with global warming, which will help as well. But it's just good to see there is definitely more youngsters going fishing. But it's keeping them fishing. The only thing that's not really in place, because youngsters haven't really been going. I mean, I started with Luton Juniors, and I donated a few cups when I left and started making my name in fishing. But there's no junior section now.
No.
But the trouble is, there's not enough junior-run groups or clubs or what to run juniors. But there are a few, and people are starting to get a little bit more involved. So hopefully, maybe we will see a surge in more juniors or groups or places they can go, clubs and that. I know there are still a few clubs that have got junior sections, but a lot have dropped off because the juniors weren't going fishing. Like they were in the bedrooms playing games, these video games and other things, you know. So hopefully, if they can get back into it, because the ones that I took out, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kids are switched on now. They pick things up really quick as well. Not like when I was a youngster. I think school made me thicker. It took me a while to process things a bit. But kids seem to be more switched on. So, yeah, it's good.
Just thinking there, Dave, I took this father and son out, and the lad, I think he was 14. I think it was 14. It might have been 13, 14. And these ducks were swimming. And it was amazing because I brought my son along because I want to try and get him into it. And to be fair, his son done most of the fishing. We was chucking a method feed. We went to Alder's farm, and it was just a carp a chuck. It was brilliant because all the pleasure angels that are out fishing, they gradually moved nearer and nearer us because we were fishing. But anyway, and he said to his dad, Dad, can those ducks fly? And I didn't say it. He said, yeah, of course they can, yeah. But I thought, well, how many youngsters are there? And just say he's 14, for instance. He's never seen a duck fly. And I thought, well, if he's not going out into the nature, like, of course ducks fly. You know, I mean, it's common sense. But to me, it is.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that it's not just fishing. It's just you're learning so much more. You know, I know bird watchers that have never seen a kingfisher. Christ, I've seen millions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it's not just fishing. There's a lot more to it, and I don't know how you get that across to get youngsters into fishing. But definitely, there's more youngsters going fishing now. But it's keeping them going. So hopefully, they will.
I agree. It's about that longevity, isn't it? But about yourself and back to this junior piece then. So you moved from the junior section, I guess. What did you then start entering opens, or did you join like the adult section of your club?
Started in the juniors, and first when I started, what happened was it was a small junior section. They got a few trophies, and you had one senior. You'd only get probably 6 or 7 juniors turn up. The first year as I started fishing a few junior matches, and we'd be between 2 seniors because it'd be on the rivers. It wasn't commercials then. And then the following, this guy John Soper started up running the juniors and got a lot together, and all the matches were on the canals, and he was getting a lot of anglers there. And I just got the bug for it then. And then I started fishing because my dad got into then fishing the club matches, the senior matches.
Yeah.
And then when I was 14, 15, I was fishing the senior club championship and inter-club championship. And then I think I won both of them. And then that got me, because I was fishing more matches with other anglers. And then there was a group started. It was Black Horse. It was like a team fishing.
Was that a pub?
Leagues. No, it originated from a pub, but it was a guy called Colin Colbeck, who was the captain who sort of run the team. Yeah. And he just picked some youngsters, that could try, sort of 17 to 20-year-olds, guys, getting them together and that. And as I started to make my name, like winning the club matches, they asked me to join them. And that was then when Mark Bird. And Mark Bird was fishing with the Vauxhall Club, and he was in the Black Horse squad or team, and then asked me to come along and join. And I joined them. We started fishing I think it was the Cambridge Winter League. It was then. There was a team called Beecrofts that had won it every year, and we came joint first with them. But they beat us by section wins or away. I can't quite remember, but getting in, that was the first sort of insight into sort of open match fishing.
Now, that's interesting. So tell me, there's a gap there where you've won a few of these junior trophies, intermediates, you get approached to join this team of young guys. How was you learning? Did you have like a mentor? Was you just learning on the job, or was somebody giving you tips?
No, I learned a lot when I was fishing the club matches as a junior. Because you'd go for walks and you'd hear, there's a guy called Bert Holiday. I know he's not alive now. He was a bit like Ray Mumford. He used to have a suit on, looked immaculate in the front, but when he turned around, he got splits in it and rips. from behind.
Slacks and slip-on shoes.
Yeah, but I mean, what you used to wear then, I mean, not like the clothing we've got now. You'd put on 3 pairs of socks, to keep your feet warm with these. You'd have 2 or 3 pairs of trousers. There's no proper waterproofs or...
No.
But it's come on leaps and bounds now. But yeah, so we joined this squad and we started, like, winning a few team events, but we was fishing open matches as a squad. Like, we'd all go and fish the open at Olney on the Ouse, and there'd be like 10 or 12 of us go and fish there, and we'd go under Black Horse. But as a squad, we'd go out and have, like, on a Saturday, or even a Sunday it might be, if they want a match, we'd go and fish, practice somewhere, and we'd walk along and watch each other how they're fishing, or we'd have a practice on the venue that we're fishing the following week.
Yeah.
And you just see how they're fishing and how you're doing that and how you're feeding and sort of learn off each other. But as a junior, there's a guy called Dave Britton and Mark Titley I learned ever such a lot from. Very good anglers. In fact, I don't think Mark's fishing now, but Dave Britton is.
Oh, they're still with us, eh? Great. And they're still fishing? Dave's still fishing and winning with, I think it was Caddington Club. He fishes some local commercials around where I live here in Bedford. And I've seen him 2 or 3 times, got chat. He was so pleased that I recognised him and I spoke to him. Yeah, brilliant. And still winning matches he is with the club he's with. Caddington, I think the club's called, or Toddington. Oh, anyway. But I learned, you just learn as you're going. But what sticks in my mind is this, going back to this guy, Bert Holiday. They said, Bert's catching. And, I wasn't catching. I thought I'd take a walk. And before, when I was watching him, I thought, God, how's he doing that? And I walked and I was watching him and thinking, well, I'll go back and I can do better than that. I used to go back and then it was me that was winning then and catching fish. And I suppose it's a little bit self-taught and watching people. You've either got it or you haven't. I always say there's a lot of good anglers that can't feed, catch a few fish, but there's a lot of bad anglers that feed correctly and catch more fish. They're not necessarily a better angler than other anglers, but because they feed right, they catch more fish. So it's about trying to combine the two, isn't it? Yeah.
Feeding is the most important thing, but get them both right, or get everything right, and you'll catch more. And decisions are so important that make the wrong decision and forget it, you're too far behind.
I think, obviously I'll ask a lot of questions to a lot of top anglers throughout both series of these podcasts, and obviously the theme is quite similar. All you top guys say similar things, and one of the one that sticks in my mind, I've heard it twice now, one from a fellow matrix angler in the form of Lee Wright, and also young Alex on the last one mentioned it, and he said what you've got to do is don't try and copy people, because you'll never beat them doing their own thing. So what you've got to do is try and get an idea, an understanding of what they're doing, and then put your own spin on it. So that's the one that always stands out for me. But I think the feeding piece is such a big part, isn't it, of match fishing? It's unreal.
Feeding and decisions, because you can make the wrong decision. It doesn't mean you're a crap angler.
No.
You just made the wrong decision. What would you call it? Not natural ability, but like a sixth sense that when I'm fishing, and I speak to mate Tony Watt, and I travel with through the winter, through Sundays, fishing on the fens, I'll be chatting with him, and I'll give you an instance. We fished on, I call it Rat Bank, but it's Factory Bank. It's in Ramsey. It's a little narrow drain. It's between, I would say, 8 and 11 metres wide, big straight channel, and it's full of roach, and you'll catch between 6 and 20 pound of roach. Some days it's squat, some days it's pinky. We had a Winter League match, and then I come in with Tony. I was chatting with Tony when I picked him. I said, it was all squat. He said, yeah. He goes, I started fishing pinky, Polly. I knew it was squat. I changed to squat. He knew, I knew. Bob Nudd, he's come and he sat down. We spoke at the practice before. It was all pinky, but it was squat. So Bob said, well, I'll fish pinky, and I just didn't catch as many fish. And I said, it's squat, Bobby. It was squat. He went, but you said it was pinky. I said, well, it was last week. I said, but it's changed. It's right. And then the next time it changed back to pinky. And then Bob fished squat. and it was brilliant. He sat there and he went, oh, God, because Bob's getting a little bit older now, but you've got to be so on the ball. And Bob, what an angler. 4 times world champion, unbelievable. And, I admire Bob so much, but even Bob, how good he is and what he knows, just getting a little bit more complacent about, it's just pinky.
Yeah.
I'll make do with that. Or you can't. You've got to change so quick. And it's knowing to make that decision where a lot of anglers just plod along, they're catching and they're quite happy.
Yeah.
But you've really got to push yourself now because there's so many youngsters coming up behind you.
This is it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like a sixth sense to know to change. But you can't teach someone that. That's only through experience of matches that they fished to make them do that.
Yeah.
I could be catching fish. Why suddenly then go on your chop worm line? Because I just thought it was right to do. And then go back on your pinky or squat line, or caster line, or whatever, or hemp line. But it's just knowing and keep feed when you're on another line. Keep feeding the other lines.
Absolutely, yeah. And I always think one of the things I always struggle with is like regulation. So this swim management piece that you're talking about, it might be that I'm catching consistently on, let's say, pinky over ground bait, like you say, great example. But it needs a little bit of a rest. You've lost a skimmer maybe, and it might just go a bit iffy. So you're going to go and try another line, like you say, your chop worm line or whatever. Now I know I know this, so I don't know why I don't act on it. I know that I've now stopped feeding as much as I was previously over that ground bait line because I'm concentrating so much on this chop worm line or whatever. I'm throwing the odd pinky in, but actually before I was throwing 12 in at a time. Why have I stopped doing that? And I know I'm doing it. I'm conscious of it, but I don't know. So I'm not as natural for sure. Yeah.
I mean, yesterday I've done a feature Angling Times at March, and they wanted it just fishing a whip, catching fish on a whip, how you'd feed and that. But the swim I fished, I went and sat on the concrete near the town centre bridge, and then 2 lads, they got an army match, they fished there today, come down to practice, and they couldn't fish the max length that it was on. And I said, all right, if we sit here, I said, just sit up and it's all free fishing. Yeah, no problem. So they sat down and I fished away, and I fished 3.5 hours and caught 20 odd pounds, skimmers, roach and what have you.
Lovely.
But if I'd fished it as I would have fished it as a match, I think I'd have had 40 pounds. I'd have doubled my weight because I was flicking a 4.5 metre whipping with a 3/4 gram rig, feeding pinkies. If I didn't get a fish as it went in and weighted up, I probably didn't get one. So taking it on the drop.
Yeah.
So what you wanted was to lay a nice light rigging. And then what you could do, you could lift it and try to make them take it. But because I'm fishing the whip, I can't do that.
Can't flick it out. No, you'd have been better on a long pole,
Yeah. And these 2 army lads, I spoke to them, I just said to them, and they were catching, but they didn't catch a lot. But I could see they just needed, I could just give them half a day's coaching and they'd be catching. But it's just, it's amazing though, but they're good anglers.
Yeah.
They've got all the gear and they know, but they're just not feeding right and just doing it. I give one of them a bag of ground bait as I went. I said, "There, I'll give that." He goes, "Oh, I just run out of that mug. I've been using that." I could see the Hinders Pollard punch come underneath his thing that he'd started on. He said, "I'll run out of that because not all the shops stock it." But I said, "We'll give that a go." I said, "Mix it with a bit of brown crumb." I said, "That'll help you out." But he's like too short a line and he won't feed. And but I didn't want to interfere. Obviously, they were having a workout. But it's just. They've seen me catch that amount of fish. Oh, Christ, that was right, the whip. But that wasn't how I'd fish it. But I knew, through my experience fishing, what I needed to do. But I was catching enough for the feature because it was on whip fishing. But it wasn't
they're probably they're seeing that and thinking, crikey, if I got half of that on the big match, we're in it.
Well,
it's funny. That's a really good point. The coaching piece. I asked Alex a similar question, the last one. What are the most common mistakes that you see?
Well, feeding. Right, let's get into it. If I'm on a commercial, and this is nearly everyone I take out, so you've got a little pot on your pole.
Yeah.
And really, it's the pot on your end of your pole is like when you feed the fish and is your feeder.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can limit, that's why you've got small pots and big pots, how much feed you put in. You can put a big pot on and put small amounts in or big amounts in. But whoever put whatever size pole pot, the angler puts what they want to fill it. So, like they want to fill it. But once, so I sit, when I'm coaching, I sit behind them and I put my brain into their head, tell them when to feed, to do this, do it, and it's the best way. They can watch me, they do watch me a little bit, but it's no good. You've got to do it yourself, because practice makes perfect. So I sit behind and say, okay, right, I've been telling them to feed, do this. I said, right, I'm just going to watch for 20 minutes now, and then we'll chat after 20 minutes. Okay. So they're catching fish, a little pot, they're shipping across to the far side of the reeds or whatever, so I watch them. They catch a fish, put some feed in the pot, go across, lift the rig, drop it, got a fish, come back, shooting back out again, they put no feed in the pot. And I watch them, and it starts to go, the swim starts to go, so, it's got a bit iffy. I said, give it another 5 minutes, we'll have a chat. So, right, what do you think went wrong? Some big fish moved in? I said, no, I said, you didn't feed. Yeah, no, I did. I said, no. I said, you caught 2 fish and fed, and then you missed a bite, you come back, put an expander pellet on your hook, you didn't put any feed in the pot, and then you missed another bite, you didn't put any feed in the pot, and now you've sat there the next 6-7 minutes. Right, so start again, and then by the afternoon they've got it then, but it's because they think they're doing it, but they're not. Yeah, but I just fed. No, you didn't. That was 2 fish ago the last time you fed. So, because when you feed with the pot, you're not feeding for that fish you catch. You're probably feeding for the next fish.
Yeah, and it's just setting that trap as well, isn't it? One 4-pound carp will eat the whole lot in one go. So. Oh
Christ, yeah. The most technical. Like if I take some anglers out that are more experienced, I try and do the double feed. So I'm saying this to your listeners now, maybe they don't know it, I think some of them won't do, but if you've got a pole pot and you've got dampened micros, so what I'll do is, you've got the lid off, no lid, so you put some in and you press them so they're compact in it, and then you put some in and you just lightly tap them, go out, turn it, tap it, they drop out, but the ones that you've really pressed are still stuck in your pole pot.
Yeah, got it, yeah.
So keep the pole pot turned with the top facing the water if they'd fall out, and then you get the bite, you strike the fish, then tap it if you want with your hand, tap the butt section that you've got and they'll drop out, or just dip it in the water and they'll drop out. So you've done a double feed, you fed again.
Yeah.
So you've
got it.
Get that fish in, so you've done a double feed, so you've primed your peg already a bit quicker. Because it's all about time in motion, trying to get the most out of your peg as quick as you can.
And then same again after the fish, the lightly sprinkled ones over the top.
Yeah.
Hit the next fish, tap the pole, then
So you've like double fed, whereas you would have fed, dropped your pellet, got to come back, they've gone down, but this way you've got some more falling down, so you get that fishing quick go out and you get a bite quicker.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
In theory, you should, get one quicker. And it's like I'm left-handed with a pole. So whip fishing, if I'm on the whip, I'll be, and if someone, but I'm right-handed, but I hold the pole in the left hand, I hold the whip in the left hand, I can feed perfectly with my right arm because I'm right-handed. But I fish.
Well, we'll get. You know what the most commonly asked question is, don't you?
Yeah, go on.
It's about the old poly switch, isn't it?
Yeah, cack-handed.
So,
yeah.
I'm not quite as cack-handed as you. I'm a bit weird the way I fish. I'm right-handed, but I have my bait tray to my right as well, and I think that's because I am so right-handed. So if you imagine the way that if I'm feeding by hand with the pole, I can't even explain it. It's certainly not on a podcast. This is a visual thing, but I'll hold the butt of the pole. It's got the pole's going across my right leg, obviously. And my left hand will be holding the butt of the pole whilst I feed with my right hand because the tray's to the right, and then I quickly switch back. That's how I think. It's really odd. So, yeah, I'm cack-handed, so I sort of get where this is coming from. But when I do see you doing this poly flip on the waggler, it is truly bizarre. So tell the listeners how that came about.
Well, the only thing I can put it down to was, as I've spoke just earlier about, obviously, when we first started fishing, me and my brother used to go to Eaton Ford on the river, we had a rod with a line tied on the end. We had no reel.
Oh, this was for them bleak, right?
Yeah, bleak. We caught an odd roach all days, but we never caught more than 3 or 4 roach. But as soon as we got a reel, we could cast, and it was great. I remember my dad put my arms round, and that's it. He'd pull it, so he's put his arms round me, but it must have been that the rod is on my left side, and so then I've wound. So it's on that side. He must have got me cack-handed, and I must have thought that's the right way.
That's the way you do it, yeah.
Just perfected it. I think Ian Heaps is cack-handed as well. He fishes cack-handed. So I've tried, because I'm fishing full-time, go back a good few years ago, going out and just fishing right-handed, and it's just wrong. It just don't feel natural. So
it doesn't matter, does it? Because it's effective for you. But for those listeners that don't know what we're talking about, I mean, I'm sure most of them do, because I had at least 3 or 4 questions to ask you about that. But there's a video that he did with, I think it was with Matrix actually, and he was fishing a waggler on the Ouse. I think it was at God Manchester Way. And that demonstrates it really well. So if somebody goes onto if you're not seeing it, go onto Matrix YouTube and find Mark fishing a waggler, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. It's really, it's unique. Let's put it that way. It's really interesting.
I've done one with Johnny Arthur for Matrix at Rookery Waters on Rook Lake catching roach.
There you go.
40 or 50 pound of roach and rudd, and he's called it on there. I think I said, here we go, the poly swap, and
yeah.
But yeah, if they log on, if they go onto YouTube and put in Mark Pollard on a waggler, they can have a laugh.
Well, let's build on this Matrix thing, because let's talk about tackle. So as you've said, you were making a name for yourself fishing with the Black Horse team, and you joined up with this sort of partner of yours and the rest of the guys at Mark Bird that we mentioned before. Now, I always throw in my own anecdotes at this point, because I'm, middle-aged as it were now, and my match fishing was the 90s. So I think back to the 90s, all my information was from a magazine. You'll remember it, Mark. It was called Angling Plus. Do you remember that?
Yes, Angling Plus. It was part of Angling Times. They had 2 or 3. They had a sea fishing one, and they did, and they had Sea Fishing Plus, that's right. And that all my, I absorbed everything from that. And as you rightly say, David All's pole fishing at the time, and all sorts of stuff as a kid. And for me, one of the standout brands at the time was a brand called Image, and that is a brand that you created with Mark Bird, and I still remember, and I know that you recreated, I think, some of the products like the punch board and stuff more recently, but there was two standout products that blew my mind as a kid. So I grew up fishing Northwest canals, and as you rightly say, not many of us had decent poles, and it was all about waggler fishing, and there was a fantastic canal whip style waggler, balsa, which was fantastic, but the main one, ghost hooks. Image ghost hooks. And these were products I remember. So tell me about Image. How did it come about? Right, so obviously we started as the group, the Black Horse Group, and because I'd been with Luton Angling Club, my main full-time fishing was canals, and we started fishing opens, and because I started winning opens on the canals and making me name for myself as a canal angler. And obviously as a squad we were winning team matches on canals, and we went up to the Aylesbury Arm, and it's tench and caster fish. No, it's an arm, because it's called the Aylesbury Arm, and it goes into the Grand Union Canal.
Right.
So it comes off the Grand Union, and it's just an arm that goes to a dead end into Aylesbury.
Interesting. Okay.
Called the Aylesbury Arm, and we went there and fished this Aylesbury Arm teams of 6 canal championship and absolutely annihilated it, fishing wagglers and squat. And it's only a little narrow thing, or pole and squat. And like we virtually nearly won every set. We absolutely annihilated it. And they just couldn't believe it. And the weight's like 2 pounder ropes with a phenomenal weight. And we were catching like 6 to 8 pound. And we just went everywhere and caught loads of roach. And then someone said, "Oh, you want to go down to London Canal? You can win loads of money down there, Polly. It'd be unbelievable, right up your street." And I went down to Rickmansworth and Denham on the canal. I remember fishing at Rickmansworth because I just started driving then, so I thought I'd go down for some of the opens. I went to Rickmansworth. It was like 110 or 120 anglers sold out, and I drew, I think, about peg 6. And they said, "Yeah, no, you want to be below the lot." And I was fishing away. There's a guy called Mick Burrell, who was a brilliant angler, absolutely brilliant angler. Won opens everywhere. Brilliant punch angler, brilliant on the feeder, waggler, and I knew he was such a good angler, and he fished with ABC then. And I weighed in 3:15.12. The bloke said, "Oh, you might win the match. There's only one bloke that beat you, Mickey Burrell. He's had a carp. He's below the lock where you wanted to draw." Right. And obviously Mickey Burrell had heard me that I was the top weight above the lock, what I'd caught. And I remember he said to me, he said, "What you weighed, young'un?" I went 3:15.12, and he sort of muttered a swear word like that. Well, he had 3:15, but he had 3:15.4.
Oh God, them drums!
And I think I thought, "Oh, I won the match. I'm going to win about 200 or 300 quid." And I think I won about £700. It was ridiculous. Wow. They'd done a big winner take all, and then it dropped like to a couple of hundred quid, like second place. And then the next week they got one at Denham, and I went there. And Steve Garner come past me. He said, "You caught a few, ain't you, young?" I said, "Yeah," and I had 18 pounds of chub on the waggler and won that one.
Brilliant.
And it was it just got better. It was just wherever I went on the canal, and I could catch better fish, but I could catch the small fish as well. But it was a squat. You'd fish squat at Denham on the canal and Rickmansworth, where people just didn't fish it like we fished it, feeding like we used to get through like 2 and 3 pint of squat.
Heavy feeding,
and just catch everything. You know, little roach, big roach, skimmers, and just sort of perfected it. Just made it my own way of fishing. Like the team fished it, but obviously I always done better and just made I made the name for myself. And then because I was making such a name for myself, and the team was doing well, Mark Bird and Rob Hewson got approached by a businessman who had Image Autographics to set a company up, Image Angling Products, making floats.
Right.
And although I fished with Mark and Rob Hewson, I remember going to a match and just saying, this bloke approached me from Northampton and he wanted to make floats with my name on and give me 20% of the sales. And I said to my old bloke's doing, "You ain't said anything yet, have you, Polly?" I went, no, we might have a business proposition. Because I didn't know in the background they were starting up this company, but hadn't said anything to me. And then said they'd make me an equal partner if I come involved, if I didn't get this bloke to make the floats. And then I went with them, and that's where that journey started. So, yeah.
Well, for me, as I say, as a kid, it was it was an iconic brand. I know then it changed to Future, didn't it, for a little while? I seem to remember that.
Yeah, well, Image. The trouble was, Dave, we were young, and we was led wrong by the guys that stepped in to help us out. Wrongly or rightly, and then we folded the company, and then Future that had started up brought the name and the stock and that from the liquidator, because we went into voluntary liquidation, and then it was Future Image, and then it sort of changed. But if we'd had someone stepped in and took us on board from our ideas and what we had, I mean, who knows where we'd been now.
Well, the thing is, I guess you were anglers and not businessmen, right? So
yes, definitely.
You sort of, your faith is with other people. But I mean, not all is lost, of course, because then you're instrumental behind the Fox brand launching their match range. Into in the noughties, if you like, and you mentioned Bob before. Bob came over for a while, helped out, and did different pieces as well. So I mean, the Matrix piece, which is obviously the newer version, if you like, of Fox Match, has been a massive success, has it not? I mean, there's a huge following.
with Matrix now. And what's that behind? I mean, I know Ricky Teal was there for a while, and you know, well, that's his game, isn't it? Growing brands. But how has it got so big so quick?
I just think all the right people are in place. When like jumping a few years ahead, I then got involved as a Fox Match brand manager. And then I got approached to go fish. I've been there 10 or 11 years. I got approached because I was sponsored by Dynamite as well, or a paid consultant for them. I got approached to go fishing full time under the banner of Shimano Dynamite Baits, because they got into bed together, got involved together. And I thought, well, it'd be silly not to. They had like a holding where Shimano were in Pollard, and they got Dynamite Baits, and they set up a big catalogue and took on anglers, and I think Alan Scotton was there, I was there, Rob Wootton, and they were just trying in fact, for the first year, Steve Ringer was there as well, and I thought, how's this going to work? But anyway, cut long short, I think that lasted for about 5 years, may have been 6 years, and it was just run wrong. It was just, you know, I had some brilliant ideas and that, but nothing really happened. Yeah. And then I remember speaking to Sean McSpadden at Fox, where they just started up Matrix, and then Ricky Till was leaving the company. Would I get involved a bit more? I said, yeah, I'd love to. And then I just joined them as a paid consultant, but then they just got all the right people in place. And like now with companies, if you haven't got your own media team, you can forget it.
Yeah.
Because everything works. You've got, I feel with Matrix now, they've got, well, the whole company is Fox. Everybody in place. That's why the people that have been there for a good few years. You know, if it's not, people leave. If they're not happy, they leave. And I can't remember anyone really leaving Fox as a company, and now Matrix. It's just such a brand. And to be fair, you would have thought that COVID would have held us back, because the only meetings we've had have been Zoom meetings or group chats, and but they've just got so much stuff still to come out that I can't talk about now.
Yeah, I mean, the overarching owners, of course, now it's all Preston's in there as well, and, you know, Sonia Bates, and everything's all in one, if you like. But I imagine they will stay separate because of the loyalty to Preston's got its fanboys as Matrix. You've
got to keep it separate, because a lot of people don't know. A lot of the public don't know that obviously the parent company that owns Fox, Matrix, Sonia Bates, Press Innovations, is all one, but it's just run separately. It's just a private group of people who own all those companies, but they just run separately, which is the best way.
It makes sense, because they have completely separate identities, and like you say, with separate media teams and doing their own things. It's really interesting. I mean, obviously, I keep a keen eye on the whole sort of tackle industry, if you like. I find it really interesting. But no, great, and long may it continue. I guess you're not thinking of jumping ship from Matrix, right? You're happy doing what you're doing.
No. I'm just at the right place now, because the Matrix, brilliant company. You know, great bunch of, say, work colleagues. I call them friends. It's just brilliant. It's just, you know, I pinch myself sometimes. I feel I've got the best fishing equipment available, and new stuff coming on board. They look after me very well. Hinders, with the ground bait range that I've done with them, that's just brilliant, and that just goes from strength to strength. And obviously being sponsored by Stan J Sports for bait as well, I can't go wrong. I've got my own float range. Just a bespoke range of pole floats and some wagglers that I deal with about 60, 70 shops. No, it's great. It's just always what I wanted to do. And like I say, I pinch myself thinking, it's great. I'm still enjoying it.
Absolutely. You know, the Hinders stuff as well, funnily enough, I ordered some the other week, because my winter campaign is going to, it's going to start on the 28th of of November, really. Not necessarily using those baits. But what I bought, though, I bought some of their Chinese hemp. So I've not cooked hemp for years. The wife isn't happy.
Well, let me tell you now, Dave, their hemp, I put a blog up on Facebook probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. People are struggling to get decent hemp. And any of the listeners listening in, you can buy direct from Hinders, and you can buy from your local tackle shop, and it's at the same price. I think they've got a deal on at the moment, and it's 20% off or something while you're ordering in November. But I
got free postage on mine, so there are definitely offers on, yeah.
Right, yeah. The hemp, you've only got to cook it normally, bring it up to the boil and simmer it, 45, 50 minutes maximum, and it's cooked. You ain't got to soak it for 3 days in a bucket and it don't split and all that rubbish. It's the best hemp. There's some slightly bigger grains in there that you can pick up for the hook, but it's brilliant to feed. My mate only got I think he got 6 kilos of hemp from Amazon, and it was called Giant Hemp. It was the size of a pinhead. It was a complete waste of time. Absolute hopeless. So if any listeners, they want hemp, contact Hinders. They got the best hemp available.
Yeah.
And any guys like
really
the shops, the shops can buy from Hinders. I think they're into 300 or 400 shops. But it's just a bespoke range that I've got with them. But they've got a massive range of barbel, carp, all sorts. Family-run business and all natural ingredients.
Well, I got the Chinese hemp. I bought a bag of tares as well. And I also bought 2 bags of your punch crumb because I intend to use that. My winter kicks off on the Trent. Not necessarily going to fish punch on there because it's going to be big fish. But once that's over, I'm then onto a little drain over by the East Coast. And I'm hoping by that time starts, mid-December. They're dropping the level now. We're thinking the fish are going to start coming into town soon. So that's when your punch crumb will come in handy. I'm looking forward to using it. I'll drop you a message of how to mix it properly nearer the time.
I'm actually fishing punch tomorrow. I'm doing some filming with Matrix on the Northampton Canal. We're just filming some Christmas stocking fillers and a bit of the new clothing, but we can do a little bit on punch fishing. But I actually knocked out this afternoon, but I just love in the punch crumb the aniseed. It just, as a kid, the only thing we ever had flavourings for ground bait was aniseed and vanilla we used to have. And we always used to use aniseed for roach, used to put a bit on our maggots, used to buy it in a bottle. But, it works. It's great to see people actually using it, and I get a great kick out of it. It's brilliant.
No,
it's easy to mix. It's not too fine. It's got coarse. It's sort of a mixture of coarse and fine. Add a little bit of water, whisk it round, leave it to stand, loosen it up, run it for a riddle, job done.
No, good. I'm looking forward to it. I like punch fishing. I've not done enough of it for many a year, for sure. But no, good. Okay, well, we've covered the tackle bit there really well. That's really interesting because, like I say, image for me as a kid, it was a real sort of some of those products still in my mind to this day. I remember the little punch box and all the rest of it. So, no, fantastic. Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit. I have one of the questions from the listeners, if you don't mind, Mark.
No problem.
Why didn't you get more England caps?
Right, I fished. I'm trying to think now. I think I fished 3 or 4 home internationals.
Yes.
The last home international I fished was up in Scotland. Was it up in Scotland? It was up in Scotland. And the last day I won the whole bank. I might have been second in the match. I had something like 3 or 4 kilo of perch. And the method was fishing close in that. But I was loose feeding chop worm, the catapult, and fishing worm on a waggler catching perch because such is it. Right, but I was told that wasn't the method that we should be fishing. But I absolutely annihilated the bank I was on. But whether that was it, I don't know. I fished my own way. I don't know. No, to be fair, when I fished for England the first time, it was down at Cardiff Docks. There was me and Derek Young, 6, had got an invite down. And I was just appalled, really, the way it was was sort of run. Like, I thought it was a be all and end all just to fish for England, to get the last fish for your country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we got down there, me and Derek Young, and I didn't feel it was organised properly. And Mark Downs had also they the one short. So Mark had his lad Lee Addy. He'd come down and stay, so he fished. I remember saying to Derek, I said, "There's so many anglers out there would love to get the chance to fish for England, and Lee Addy, his son's going to fish because we're one short. It's terrible, absolutely terrible." But so it wasn't what I expected. What it was going to be like.
Right. Okay.
So it didn't. I never got from Scotland. I never got an invite then to fish for England. Whether I was too small, not strong enough to hold a pole in the wind, or I don't know. But
so you think it was because you went against the team orders?
Yeah, maybe because I fished my way that day that those that picked the team didn't like. I don't know. But to be fair, I mean, people, I get such enjoyment out of just winning matches.
Yeah.
Just going and winning matches and just, yeah.
Well, obviously there's different, there's vets and things like that now. Have you any designs to go get into any of those teams?
No, wouldn't interest me at all, I don't think. I was speaking to Bob about it the other day, but the thing is, it costs you money to go and fish, and it'd just be too much hassle. I think I'm quite happy. I've made my name. I didn't have to be a full-time angler in the England setup to be where I am now. So no, yeah. So I don't. To be fair
enough.
You've got now the feeder team that started up gets more recognition than the actual float team.
Yeah, we've had that conversation quite a few of these podcasts, because it's like it was a stick or twist type thing as to where, some anglers, which route do they go down? Can you do the two? Is it so specialised? So yeah, there's a lot of international chat throughout this series, and it's true, because it's been such a big part of the sport now. Well, actually, the main debate, funnily enough, is, which we've had throughout all the podcasts pretty much, is the big match qualifiers and the big matches like your Fishermania versus fishing for your country. That's been the big debate, and it's whether you can do the two, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at that. So I've been going to Ireland now for about 8-9 years running, apart from obviously the COVID year, going back last year. And I've won so much out there. And if someone said to me, right, Mark, you're going to fish for England, going to fish for a country, it's so-and-so in Yugoslavia, and it's middle of September, oh no, I'll be in Ireland.
I've never been. And the island thing, never been, need to go.
I think, I mean, this year I've done 5 weeks again this year, 5 festivals. No, I didn't frame all 5. Sorry, the Earn 100, there's only 36 anglers. So I think I was halfway. It was on the river and that. I just didn't draw right to really do anything, to put anything out of the hat sort of thing. But the other 4, I framed in all 4. The year before, 5 festivals, framed in all 5. I fished the Coot Hill for 6 years, or it was 6 years running, won it 4 times, 2 fourths. Just do so well out, and it can't be, the pegs you're drawing all the time. Not that to be that consistent.
No. Yeah, no.
And I know that. I mean, I'm not stupid. If I drew a good pass, of course, anyone would have caught them there. No, so yeah.
Right up your straight, brilliant.
Oh, it's awesome. And you get
one
a lot
day,
of money
Mark,
for it as well,
day.
Which is nice.
yeah, for the old Guinness. I know. One day, got to get out there. Absolutely, it's on what do you call it? A bucket list, I think you call it nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's what I'd like to do.
It's awesome.
I like the sound of it. Now, one final thing here. We've actually touched a little bit on your future already, because you said you just want to continue doing what you're doing, and you're happy, and everything's cool. But there is just one thing note I've got here is, we've mentioned a little bit about Image, the Black Horse team, and what about team fishing? Are you in? I think you was with Van der Nine Essex for a while, was you not?
Was Essex, and when we disbanded, when we folded, Pete Clapperton that paid us each match we fished, and I think, to be fair, that was keeping, because the anglers were so far apart that and like travel was costing a lot of money. As soon as Pete sort of started dropping the money, saying he wasn't going to pay the anglers now, although you still got bait and some had to pay for bait, it lost its buzz, I suppose, that was there. I mean, won the Angling Times Team Championship up on the Neen at Peterborough 3 years running, and that was fantastic. That was just awesome to do that. It was just brilliant. But when the team disbanded, when we folded, team fishing, you had to be in a team to fish matches of a weekend, but you didn't have to be in a team anymore. There was enough individual matches started up, Fishermania started up, lots have started up, so you don't have to be in a team. You can have a match you can have a match every day of the week and not be in a team now on commercials.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
So I think that's what that was the demise of team fishing, and because we were such a high-profile team, and team fishing just wasn't at the forefront then. The lads were all over the country. We sort of just disbanded. It was just what worth came. We'd won everything, and well, let's just call it a day. When I went fishing full-time as a professional angler, I spoke with Stan J Sports and God Manchester, Stan and Fizz that I know very well. I said, I'm going fishing full-time. Would you like to sponsor my bait? Would you? Yeah, they will. So they sponsored me bait. I put on my website on my coaching days that are sponsored by Stan J Sports. Had it printed on my clothing. And they said, yeah, will you fish for us in the Winter League, in their team? I said, yeah, okay. And that was, I fished for them probably for about 9 years now, maybe 10 years. And the last 3 or 4 years, I've always fished with Tony, and Tony's fished with them. Tony Watling, I travelled with, Tony Watling Jr., and he was with Essex. So there's 2 of us. Bob Nudd fishes with Stan Jays, there's 3 of us. Andy Mead, who used to be with Essex, he fishes with Stan Jays. So there's 4 of us. Martin Collicutt, who fished with he fished with ABC, which is another good London team. So we've got a good squad, but it's a laid back sort of attitude. Although we're all competitive, we want to win. We're not there practicing on the Saturday or the Wednesday before, having a line up, and we just fish the practice open, and the team's picked by Stan Binge, who owns Stan J Tackle. I mean, it is love for the sport. Stan, he must be 76, I think he is now, and he just loves the team doing well, and it's great. It's brilliant to see.
That's good. So you're still in it, brilliant. Yeah. I didn't realise. So is that are you on the East Midlands Winter League there then? That's
it, the East Midlands. We're third at the moment. I mean, not last year because it followed the year before. It was the year before that we got through. We missed winning the Angling Times Winter League by 5 points, I think it was, or 6 points. We come second.
Wow. So, there you go.
Yeah. So, it's brilliant, where it's on the drains and the decoy and that, which was great. And, you get still a buzz from it. I get a buzz from that. It's great.
Nah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. That was one of my questions about team fishing, away from the listener questions. It was around, because I knew the Essex stuff. I knew the older teams. I didn't realise that you were so active during the winter. So no, that's brilliant. Fantastic. Well, I guess our time is coming to an end, but the final thoughts are to you, really. It's because you give us a great overview, loads of stuff there, really fascinating stuff. But what is the future for you now, then? What are your plans, apart from just enjoying yourself? Are you involved now with more tackle development with Matrix, or just growing your coaching? What's the score?
Well, I think with fishing, unlike another sport, I mean, obviously, if I was a footballer, I could be at the top level of football at the age I'm at now. But with fishing, there's no age to it. So as long as I'm healthy and carrying on doing what I'm doing, and Matrix want me there, and Hinders want me there, I'll always be there, because I'm doing what I'm doing. In my mind, I am retired, but I'm retired working, doing what I love. Yeah. And I just carry on doing that. And, I have a lot of time that I get with the family. They've grown up now, but spend a lot of time with Tracy, my wife, and that, holidays and what have you. But still, every Saturday and Sunday there I am fishing and enjoying it. Try and stay healthy. But it's great. It's a brilliant hobby, full-time work, if you call it. Just a brilliant thing to be part of. It really is. Like I said, I pinch myself sometimes. Some mornings when I don't think, am I really doing what I like?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's what they say, isn't it? You know, find something you love. You'll never work a day in your life, and you literally live in that dream. It's nice, great.
Living the dream, as they say, yeah.
That's right. Fantastic ambassador for the sport as well. And one of the things I said, I think to you're welcome to Alex, I think it was so about the last podcast, was that what always we had a little chat after we'd finished our recording, if you like, and I was explaining that you would be the next guest coming on and whatnot, and I said one of the things, because he's a young boy, well, in relative terms, he's 27, and fishing, that's nothing. So I was trying to say was what I like about these top names on these podcasts is that a lot of the main ones, like yourself, Tommy Pickering, you know, these guys are still relevant. Darren Cox, he's a bit younger, you know, but it's the top of the game all these years and still relevant. And that's the word, I think. As long as you're relevant, you're saying the right things, you're innovating yourselves, then, you know, you'll always be there as long as you want to be. Like Bob, like you said before, you know, 70 odd, still relevant.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome.
So on that final note, a massive thank you for taking your time out to chatting to us on the podcast, and I wish you well.
Dave. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to the final press pack of 2021. Now, for the unfamiliar amongst ourselves, this is where I review anything interesting that's caught my eye in the weekly and printed press across Improving Coast Fishing and Matchfishing magazine. And also, for the very final episode, a new addition to the press pack. It remains to be seen whether it will be a regular contributor next year, but I'll reveal all very shortly. But let's start with Angling Times, this week's Angling Times. And actually, let's kick off with big catches. Throughout the podcast series, I've made reference to a number of catches that have caught the eye. I always remember a young boy that had caught some stonking fish from the river, I think it was the Severn at the time, across the road from where he lived. Some incredible pike, zander. But we're back to the good old barbel, and straight in page 4 of Angling Times, a record-shaking barbel banked from the Thames. And this just stands out like a sore thumb because just the simple sheer weight of this barbel at 20 pounds, 12 ounce. Landed by Farnham Surrey angler Mike Perrin. It's the biggest reported so far this season and just 6 ounces shy of the British record. As it says, you know, River Trent may be the most consistent in terms of double figure fish, but the Thames is the best bet for anglers looking to etch their names into history, as there have been several different barbel over 20 pound from the waterway in recent years. He caught that on a snowman rig featuring an 18mm dumbbell and a 12mm pop-up. And just a fantastic catch, very, very close. And yeah, I can see some of the fish that have come out of the Thames. There's a 20 pound 2 ounce, 18.8, 18.7, just real big fish for barbel. And another one on the same page, pretty interesting. I'm not a carp angler whatsoever, as demonstrated by these podcasts, but you know, very much sort of match fishing being my game. But you've got to admire carp anglers, and on the continent, especially, Hungary is making a real name for itself, and I know that there's a lot of venues around that part of the world that contain lots of big carp, but this one, a pair of British anglers have managed one of the most staggering catches on record, landing £2,000 of carp in one session, including 3 fish topping the £100 mark. This was at a venue called Euro Aqua in Hungary, where they banked more than 40 big fish, as they described it as an epic week's angling. The highlight of the trip was a £111 mirror alongside other heavyweights of £101 and £100. They also added a brace of 90s, a pair of 80s, and 26 fish ranging from £40 to £79. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for the sport. I'll let the carp anglers argue amongst themselves. But for me, wow, £100 carp, that's not to be sniffed at, is it? Brilliant. Next up in the news section of this week's Angling Times, quite interesting in how some of our funding is being used from the rod licence sales. Obviously, there's been a big boost in licence sales, and it's now funding new research. And one of the research that the Environment Agency are looking at are around invasive species. Now, this is a big thing for those that fish, certainly fish in natural waterways. But similarly, commercials have been affected by crayfish, otters, etc. So it does affect everybody. And what this is fresh money and research funded by rod licence sales are promising to look into non-native species. So the key concerns, I won't go through the whole article because it is a big one, but it's a very important piece of work that's taking place. And I can think in my neck of the woods where I am, I looked at the River Witham, which is a sort of a 10-15 minute drive down the road from me this summer, and it was absolutely clogged with weed. I've never seen anything like it. In fact, I sent a picture to a couple of people and they thought it was a dirty field. That's how bad it was. Now, my understanding is that weed was an invasive species and it grew from, it could be some of the sort of phosphates that have come off the farming fields around there, but low and clear conditions, a lack of rain over the summer as well, didn't help to get rid of this weed. Now, if there was any fish struggling underneath there, I'd never have seen it because it was that thick. And that's just one example that's happening all over. And what the Angling Times highlights here is the 5 most common, which you must be alert to. It says there are methods to control and eradicate all of the main invasive offenders, but you must get armed with the right information. So Himalayan balsam, pretty pink flowers, looks really nice, but it can actually destabilize banks. That's a big old issue. That's one. Signal crayfish, again, local water to me, River Trent. I know on some of the tidal stretches, this is a real big issue. And what happens is they burrow into the banking, and again, it can cause erosion of the banks. Similarly, they predate on fish eggs, so not good at all. Mink, crikey, we've all probably come across wild mink whilst fishing on various water courses. There's an irony to it in terms of otters. The introduction of otters has actually killed a lot of mink, but they are still a big issue, of course. Giant hogweed being another one. It can cause burn-like wounds to humans. Dead plants can pose a risk as well. And some of the other things, such as Japanese knotweed, giant rhubarb, certain catfish, terrapins, certain shrimp, the list goes on and on and on. And I guess as we are more of a connected world, then and with climate change, these things are going to continue. So what can you do? It does say here, further info and preventative measures are available. You can email andrew.chadwick@anglingtrust.net. He handles the south of England, and ian.doyle@anglingtrust.net covers the north. And you can drop those guys and ask for any advice and help you and your club get rid of invasive species. So the next thing that caught my eye in Angling Times, and the last thing, around sort of page 30, there's actually a separate section called Where to Stay and Fish. Now, what this is talking about is booking in advance if you're thinking of a fishing trip, fishing holiday for 2022. And I guess I can back this up because for somebody, I work in travel myself, and historically, although things have changed the last few years with COVID and some different buying traits, in general, historically, January and early February is what we call in travel peaks. And that means that pretty much come Boxing Day, all the adverts hit the TV where all the tour operators and the airlines are advertising their holidays. And it sort of causes a bit of a rush to get booked up. And of course, something to look forward to for the forthcoming summer. And it makes sense that that is what Angling Times are sort of trying to promote here as well. There's numerous pages, a really big bumper piece on this, and it does highlight certain areas as well, certain places. So Rookery Waters being one of them here. That's a place that I'll be visiting next year, and I'm really looking forward to it. Lakeside, as an example, in Norfolk there as well. So lots and lots of different places. I mean, we've covered some of these great locations before. We spoke about Lindholm Lakes at the last on the last podcast, what a great setup, what a place to go for a fishing holiday, whether you're a match angler or whether you're a pleasure angler. It's got something for everybody. Similarly, my favourite destination in the whole of Britain, if you said to me, where would you like to go fishing for a week tomorrow, Dave, I'd be like, right, Dockall straight away. Ireland, of course, is making a massive resurgence these last few years. There's some great places in Wales as well. So, I mean, have a little look at this. If you are thinking of getting away for a week next year, then they are right. Angling Times, it's a good idea that they've put this in, because things do get booked up quickly. And if you start preparing your mind and thinking about, well, where do I want to go next year? Now is the time, and think about booking up ASAP, because things do book up really quickly. And I think for me, staycations, as they call it, is very much here to stay. Now, I think people have got a taste of it, and what we'll see going forward as things gradually improve travel-wise is we'll have a mixture of the two. Families, instead of having perhaps two foreign holidays a year, or perhaps you have a UK and a foreign holiday, or as money's becoming tight and inflation rises, as it's continuing to do so, perhaps people will cut out the foreign holiday completely and stay in the UK. So bear that in mind. If you are thinking of having a holiday, fishing with whether it be with the family, with your friends next year, then get booked up now. So loads of good stuff in Angling Time this week. Really enjoyed having a read. Some great big catches. Won't go through them all. And I'll talk about the tackle, which is in there as well a little bit later. So moving on to the monthly magazines, kicking off Improve Your Course Fishing page 10, but also it does cross over into Matchfishing as well, where there are two similar approaches, targeting a water that brings back some fantastic memories for me. And I think for those feeder anglers amongst you, it's a bit of a mecca, really. I mean, I know there's lots and lots of similar waterways now that are in vogue for feeder fishing, but this one is Rudyard Lake. And I always remember fishing Rudyard Lake as a kid, and it was a bit of a magical place, really, because you had some of these lovely houses on the far bank, and it just seemed to be shrouded in mystery. And being a kid from the Northwest is a little bit different the way that we fished. We were allowed something called Northwest rules, early sort of like 90s and 80s, if you like, was you could use two hooks, so 2 hook lengths, double hook rigs. That obviously gives you the opportunity to mix and match different hook baits. And of course, if you get 2 fish on, then happy days. And that's what's taking place in Improve Your Course Fishing. Chap here, Gareth Lambert, he's fishing a double hook rig and manages a few bream. And in the Matchfishing magazine, it's Andy May is on there as well. And I always remember as well, Rudyard, the matches were always really well attended. There was always 60, 70. I cast my mind, but I think it was a guy called Jimmy Garside, rings a bell. He used to win a hell of a lot of matches. He was from round sort of Salford way, and he used to head down there. I wonder whether he still fishes it. But the matches are growing again. And, as demonstrated by 2 articles on the same venue in the same month. So a popular place. If you like your feeder fishing and you want stunning scenery, then Rudyard Lake is, a fantastic venue. Couple more pages in, on page 14, Improve Your Course Fishing, some good-looking lad called Dave Eastwood, fishing a venue in Lincolnshire called Bainside House Fishing. Now, this is the second feature that I've done for Improve Your Course Fishing. The first one was fishing in sort of 15 feet of water in a place called Peacock Waters, and that was in spring. Well, the idea behind this feature was how to approach a bit of a mixed bag on a venue that's very much sort of a commercial, but not in the respect that it's got lots of features. It's a very traditional lake. And I fished a waggler on this one and really, really enjoyed my day. It was very hard at first, bit of a nip in the air, but it demonstrates a good tactic, fishing sort of wag and mag tactics for autumn. Really enjoyed that. So if you want to pick up a copy, it's issue, what is this month? 383 this month. So you'll get to see yours truly in Improve Your Course Fishing. Another good read on page, let me have a look, it is page 62, chap called John Hudson. He's fishing, basically ditching the bomb for an Olivet. Now, this is something I've done for a fair few years. I think it was an idea I got off of Jamie Hughes. I think I saw him do it on an old map video years ago. And it does make total sense in the fact that in some respects in summer, you're using that bomb to replicate the sound of a pellet hitting the water. You're also looking to catch them on the drop with a long tail. Obviously in winter things are a little bit different and a little bit more finesse needed, and that little plop that an Olivet gives and all, it's like a fine-tuned approach but is still very versatile as well. So it makes sense that in this magazine, Improve Your Course Fishing, which is of course predominantly aimed at pleasure anglers, just to give anglers a bit of something different to think about in respect of, bomb fishing in winter. A lot of perhaps anglers in winter think that they can just sling out a bomb with a bit of bread on a couple of discs and wait for the sort of wraparound, and that just doesn't happen. A little bit of thought process. It's a good article by John Hudson. A final thing that I really liked in Preview Course Fishing, I always do actually, every month Des Ship does his article, if you like, his piece. And this month it's called My Golden Pole Fishing Rules. And what he's talking about is, and again for this magazine, but many match anglers are guilty of this. I struggle sometimes getting your pole rollers right. So he's telling you how to sort of get the angle right. He's talking about the gaps. He's talking about length of line between float and tip, and just some real nice reminders of, getting yourself sorted as you enter your winter campaign. And Des Ship, crikey, he's on the front of both of these magazines this month, Matchfishing and Improve Your Course Fishing. It just goes to show, this guy's a real ambassador for the sport, isn't he? And everything, when you read it, it's like common sense stuff that you think, why didn't I think of that myself? But lovely stuff. So for match pleasure anglers, Des Ship in Improve Your Course Fishing, his top tips for this month are well worth a read. Okay, on to Matchfishing magazine, and two articles of note for the river anglers amongst ourselves. And I guess the reason why they stand out for me is because their waters are pretty close to me. I've already checked them already in the Trent and the Witham. Now the Trent one is by a guy called Andy Starkey. Now he runs the midweek matches during the summertime on the Newark piscatorial waters, and it's a series, or I guess a number of opens that I'd love to get involved in, but I work Monday to Friday like most people, and it's just not something that I can get involved in. And it's a shame because there's some really good consistent weights, and I think if I remember rightly, numbers were going up to something like 70 or 80 anglers for a midweek open, which is just phenomenal. And what that means is that Newark piscatorials can open up many stretches from East Stoke right the way through to sort of Winthorpe, and give anglers plenty of room. Now, what this article or this feature's covering off from Andy is something that I'll take forward in my fishing on the river. I've got a little winter series coming up over the next few weeks, and he's talking about fishing a window feeder and the advantages of it. Pretty much a great way of getting loose feed down to the deck without using a traditional open-ended feeder, where actually the reality is, depending on your ground bait mix, do we know how much is actually getting to the bottom or is going downstream in the flow? So it's pretty simple fishing the way he does it, but it's common sense. Once again, some of the things he's put in there, it's a case of you think, why didn't I think of that myself? Couple of different lines, lovely net of fish, mainly perch. He's fishing chop worm in the mainstay. So yeah, fantastic. And he's fishing the Rolleston stretch, which is a belting stretch. Not somewhere that I've had a dabble yet, but I know it's consistent because I can see it on the match weights in summer. Now the Witham I mentioned earlier on, being in the opposite direction to me, but this is a stretch right up from where I fished last year. A guy called Neil Fisher. He is fishing Grantham water, which is granthamaa.org.uk, and he's talking about, it's the upper Witham, he's talking about catching fish on a stretch that is pretty much not much wider than sort of 10, 12 metres. And this upper Witham, it winds, it twists, there's deep holes, there's shallow runs, it's full of grayling. I've heard reports of a lot of issues with otters. When I fished it last year, I certainly didn't see any otters. I saw plenty of small sort of minnows, full of them, but also lots of roach and perch. And I caught my very first grayling as well on a similar stretch to this. So it's one of those waters completely opposite to the Trent that I've just discussed. Small, intimate stick float fishing. You can fish a whip perhaps, but also chub in there as well. And he ends up with a lovely net of sort of dace and roach and silvers. So another belting feature, just to finish off in Matchfishing magazine, is called Play It Safe. It's for the commercial anglers amongst ourselves, and it's Darren Cox. He visits Tunnel Barn Farm and explains the importance of creating safe zones in your peg. Essentially, what he's doing is they're on Club Pool, which is, for those that are not familiar with Tunnel, is it's quite a mixed water. It's like a canal pool, if you like, goes round with a central island, but there's a mixed stock of fish, a lot of F1s, of course, but there's barbel, tench, carp, chub, big roach, etc. And he fishes a sort of a meat approach, and it says, meat can be deadly in winter where permitted. Now, I've never fished meat really in winter, up until about now, perhaps late autumn, but once those frosts start, I tend to veer away. I'm always under the impression that meat, the oils can congeal, so it will go back in itself rather than, slick across the water like you get in warmer water. But no, according to Darren, well worth a try, can be absolutely deadly. And he talks about, he mixes up, don't just fish meat, but he uses meat, expanders, red maggots, and of course a little bit of bread as well. So good tips for colder conditions when targeting mixed commercial waters. So that is Matchfishing magazine. Next up, something completely different, as I alluded to earlier on. So whether this continues being something that I purchase or whether I review or talk through it on the podcast, I'm not sure. It's doubtful because I don't believe that this magazine necessarily appeals to the listenership. However, I came across something, a specialist anglers magazine, if that makes sense, and something I'd never heard of before. So I thought I'd get myself the latest edition, which just happens to be a very special edition called, it's edition 25, it's the 25th one, and it's called Catch Cult. And what this focuses on, as I say, it's more of a specimen anglers magazine, if you like, but it is just the most wonderfully put together piece of reading that I've seen in a long, long time. Now, this is not cheap, which is why I don't know how much I'll continue with it, but compared to I don't think it's every month as well. I think it's bi-monthly. It's £8. Now, when I think, let's have a look. Now, Matchfishing is now, what is that? £4.75 a month. And Improve Your Course Fishing is £4.20. So I'm actually spending nearly a tenner a month on two magazines there anyway. So thinking about it, Catch Cult, if it's bi-monthly, it's actually not bad value. Now, it's headed up by a guy called Martin Mumby. And I came across it online initially and thought I'd check it out. They've got social media, they've got a Facebook page, etc. So I checked it out, had a bit of a scan around. And as I'm a big fan of tench, I saw a couple of articles from specimen tench anglers. So it wet my whistle and I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And I've ordered it. It landed on my doorstep literally yesterday. And I've just quickly skimmed through. I've not had a chance to sit down and have a real read yet. All I can say about this magazine is it just feels completely classy. It's not front to back with lots of advertisements. There's one or two in here, of course. But it's more editorial. There's a lot of content in here. It's like pretty much almost like an independent magazine. And it's one of those where I probably should have heard of it before now, but I'll have a good old read of this and perhaps we'll reconvene next year and look at this. But there is one article that's I told you about tench, and it's called Tinker Travels, and it's by Di Gribble. And if those of you that do follow, all sorts of angling, you'll probably know who Di Gribble is. He's won many Drennan Cups and all the rest of it for various species of fish. But he basically talks about his trials and tribulations with tench, which is my favourite fish. So I'll definitely look forward to that. And there was another one as well, actually, that caught my eye. This about catching golden massia in India, which is, if anybody remembers the old John Wilson go fishing when he was trying to catch that fish over in India, that will remember what a magical fish that is as well. So Catch Cult International edition 25 is out on sale now, and we'll probably reconvene and have a catch up with that on the next podcast in 2022. Now, finally, another thing, again, something slightly different. If you are a member of the Angling Trust, then this week you will receive your copy of The Angler, which is the official membership magazine for all Angling Trust and Fish Legal. Now, I don't want to get into this because I know people have strong views on the Angling Trust. For me, and I think it's insane that anybody would not want to be a member of the Angling Trust, if not to enter the competitions that are run by them, Fishermania, etc., and the Nationals, then actually just to contribute towards your own sport. And, the work that Fish Legal does in terms of taking big companies to court and all the rest of it is just, second to none. And without them, working alongside other agencies, of course, it's a real big thing. But the one thing I wanted to highlight, for the cost of whatever it is, 20 quid a year, you are contributing to supporting the sport that gives you so much joy. And if you like it or not, the Angling Trust is the recognised governing body for angling in England, at least. But a lot of people have an issue with, apparently, where's it gone? The finances of the trust. Well, if you were a member and you got the magazine, then you can see at the back is the full financial report with the full breakdown of all the costings there. And it's available online, of course, as well. So if you're not a member and you're still questioning the finances of the trust, then ask a friend that is a member for a copy of The Angler, which will give you a breakdown of that as well. But for me, it's a must. They do a lot for the sport, a lot of stuff that you don't probably know about. And it's well worth 20 quid a year, just to support the sport that gives you so much joy. So there we go. Lots and lots to dive into. Angling Times this week, the usual monthlies, and that new magazine, Catch Cult. So let's now have a little dive into the tackle shed.
For all your fishing needs, be sure to check out Fishing Evolution. Boasting 2 floors of branded displays, visit our recently expanded superstore at Hadley Road in Sleaford, where we offer a huge range of tackle from all of the leading coarse and carp brands, such as Nash, Fox, Corda, Drennan, Preston, Guru, Daiwa, and many, many more. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where we share all of the latest news and updates about products available in store.
Welcome to the Tackle Shed, and once again, for the uninitiated, this is where we take a look at the tackle that's being reviewed and looked at and launched in the mainstream media, and of course anything that's been tried and tested by myself. I'll always drop a little hint or a tip in there if I think that it will help you pick up a piece of kit. Now, kicking off with the first thing in this week's Angling Times, there's a section in there called Bargain Hunter, and I've name-checked this before, and they do a good job, Angling Times, sort of searching through the different tackle companies and seeing what's going. One that caught my eye, as we're in winter now, on the edge of winter, and temperatures will be dropping next week, sadly. There's a Matrix Sherpa hoodie, which actually looks real good quality as well, and very stylish, at totalfishingtackle.com, and it's a tenner off, so it should be 50 quid, and it's down to 40. So if you're after a new fleece, that could be one. Similar, Future Fishing, just up the road from me in Newark. They've got Garbolino Super Rocket keep nets, 2.5 meters, should be 45 quid. They're down to 25, so well worth a look. And in the actual main tackle itself, loads and loads of stuff. There's actually a whole section on new Daiwa kit for 2022. Similarly, on the last podcast, I think we went through quite a lot of in-depth stuff for Preston Innovations. We also touched on some Matrix gear not long ago as well. Well, it's Daiwa's turn to get their gear in the hands of Mark Sawyer. So Air Z AGS match rods, fantastic, but 500 to 600 quid if you've got that sort of money. But on the opposite side of that, the new Matchman float range. Looking at this, they've got 10, 11 and 12 foot plus a 13 foot rod design, 45 quid. So from the sublime to the ridiculous, really, and I'm sure they're very much usable at £45. With that Matchman feeder range, 50 quid, 9, 10, 11 and 12 foot rods. Feeder reels, one there called the 21QD, £435. So I guess what I'm trying to highlight there is actually they have got something for each range, each price point, whether it be budget or whether it be right the way up to top end. The one thing that does look quite interesting that caught my eye was they've got something coming out called a fold and go match barrow. Now it's basically, it's an all-in-one that folds pretty much flat. And I don't believe that it's just for Daiwa boxes. I think most boxes can go on this. And it looks a really good, clever design. My problem with it, 300 quid. So in some respects, I get it. If you're going to be spending sort of 500-600 quid on your seat box, then you want it to be protected when you're going over rough ground and all the rest of it. But 300 quid, you compare that to, your Matrix, your Map, your Preston Innovations barrows. This is 3 times as much. What did catch my eye, though, is the Matchman luggage range. Now, they're well known at Iowa for top quality gear, and their luggage is no different whatsoever. What you've got is a range here to appeal to all, the Matchman range. It's that sort of budget brand, if you like, but striking red logo across jet black luggage, everything from cool bags, rod bags, carryalls, etc. So that will tick many boxes for Daiwa fans. There's a new commercial net pack. As far as I can remember back at least sort of 10, 15 years, Daiwa have done a commercial pack. So you have a silver keep net and a carp keep net with a landing net and a net bag, 100 quid in this instance. I think standout though for me, being, a bit of a fan of trotting a stick float or chucking a waggler out, is they've got a new Connoisseur Pro match range. And we've spoke about this with Keith Arthur, with Tommy Pickering, who designed that original range of Connoisseur rods, and this is their latest iteration of the rod, ranging between 185 to 235 quid, so not out of the reach of certainly most top match anglers, but everything from 13 foot to 17 foot as well. Now, Cadence tackle have really got a hold on the natural water anglers because they've got those longer rods that do that type of job. Whereas some of the major mainstream tackle manufacturers have, it's not that they've avoided or dismissed the ideas, and they do have some products similar to Cadence. It's just they don't have such a wide range. Now, maybe Daiwa are looking at that and thinking, well, we're missing a trick here. We were the original innovators of great river rods and float rods. Let's have a go again. So maybe that Connoisseur range, because it's in a very similar price point to those top-end Cadence rods. So lots and lots of good stuff from Daiwa coming out in 2022. Next up, I mentioned about that Sherpa fleece, but they've actually done a review on what they called high-tech winter warmers. And I've been thinking about this myself. I think earlier on in the year on one of the podcasts, I complained about my feet getting cold. Well, what he's doing here is looking at what can keep you nice and toasty throughout the winter. And it ranges really from everything to heated undergarments, to base layers, to socks, of course. Now, a couple of these things I've got. So, first of all, merino wool socks. So, I think last year, earlier on in the winter, I spoke about the Preston Celsius socks that were okay for a tenner, whatever they were. But I actually got some merino ones from Skitex. And those Skitex ones were fantastic for the price. I think they were 6 or 7 quid. Here they cover off the Guru merino ones. So it's probably similar. But what I have got is the Daiwa Sleepskin suit. And it's something that I've had under a suit a few times, but I've actually got too hot. And this was pretty much on the edge of sub-zero temperatures. So this stuff definitely works. You can wear it against your skin. You can pop a t-shirt on and wear it over the top. I've actually ended up wearing pretty much a lightweight pair of waterproof trousers over the bottoms and use the top as pretty much, an outer top, if you like, not necessarily under a jacket. So I can highly recommend the Daiwa Sleeps. I think mine's Sundridge, but same thing. So well worth a look here. So if you're in the market for some undergarment, shall we say, for winter, they look at everything from heated underwear through to some of the mainstream tackle releases as well. So that's Angling Times. Okay, on to Improve Your Course Fishing magazine and the new gear that's revealed this month. So for match anglers, sticking with that theme, pole anglers, new pole rollers. So you got Preston's new Inception flat rollers for 80 quid. Look good, look the part, nice and high. They come in 3 models: flat, XL flat, and Super XL flat. Sorry, I should have said from $79.99. So those 3 models will have different price points, of course. I spied these actually not long ago, and I don't really know the ins and outs of these, but new Guru hooks called Kuranku. So the Kuranku is the latest additions of Guru's range of natural water hooks. They have a unique crank shape with a wide gape and offset point. Black nickel coating helps durability and prolongs sharpness. Pattern looks perfect for a range of natural water baits such as maggots, pinkies, casters on both pole and feeder. So they could be interesting to give a go on the river this winter as well. For the specimen angle, it's quite a nice piece here. Looks like it's a Shakespeare advert article. Yep. So SKP is the specimen brand of Shakespeare, if you like. And they've got a new feeder chair with a host of accessories, and that looks the part. These feeder chairs are becoming pretty much all the rage now. What I like about this, it's 150 quid, but it's got a foot plate as well, which is pretty unique in some respects. I know the new Preston one that came out had a foot plate, but yeah, so Shakespeare one looks good. So that's it really for improving course fishing. But what I did like, they've done on page 81, a Christmas gift guide, because it's that time of the year, and you could be looking to purchase a fishing item for a loved one or treat yourself maybe. And these look at a couple of different things. The usual things like sunglasses, which are a must actually in winter when that sun's low. You've got Ski-Tex boots. You've got various Willow Grange, which looks to be doing a couple of bivvy items, if you like. They're all branded Carp Life. They look quite good for the carp angler. So yeah, different things, gift cards and stuff. So maybe check that out if you're in the market for a gift for Christmas. New gear section of Matchfishing then. More pole rollers. These ones by KND, Keep Next Direct. And I must say, these do catch the eye because of the price point. 50 quid, double roller, nice extendable legs. They do have a look. I've got the map rollers, and they do have a look of those map rollers, very similar, but for $49.99 and come with a carry bag. Definitely good value for money. Similarly, something striking, I think, that really looks the part. Matrix Horizon Compact Carryall. Now, 80 quid, but EVA base, molded EVA base, lots of PVC construction there as well for water proofness, if that's a word, and a number of these sort of EVA cases that drop inside. And it's the dimensions that I'm interested in. It's only 30 centimeters high, so the idea is, of course, pack everything down. And with that as well comes the new range. You'll see, just have a look online, look at Drennan, their new EVA range, which I think not replacing those traditional material holdalls, but the idea is to have a compact carry-all made up of numerous, like a modular system inside, I guess, so you can put all your accessories in nice and tidy, and it all fits inside a smaller, more compact EVA carry-all. So that's could be, if you're looking to save space in your car or just essentially tidy up your tackle a little bit, these EVA solutions, although this Matrix one isn't complete EVA, there's a lot of PVC involved, PU coating, etc. That seems to be the way that luggage is going at the moment. Not too sure I'll swap over just yet. I'll look at the benefits of that for now, but for me, I just throw everything in my traditional old school carry-all and it ends up weighing a ton. But yeah, that needs to change, that is for sure. Now the poles, we spoke last month about the Preston range of Superior poles. Old Tom Scoley gets the X90 out and gives that a thorough workout. He's very impressed, apparently. This is the one that retails at about 3,000 quid. Yeah, so he rules the roost over that. And yeah, so he looks at that and gives it a thorough testing. There's a new range of pole floats out from Garbolino as well. They're distributed through Bennick Sports. Darren Cox basically talks you through what each of those patterns and models do. So that's useful also. I think from a tried and tested perspective, for me, I think I'm now, I must say, into my third or fourth year with my Matrix box that I use. Now, if you're in the market for a new seat box, which I am, or was, should I say, I've been looking at new boxes for a while. Don't know which route to go down. I said last month I like these deep bases and sort of a number of cross draws and a number of winder trays at the top rather than a framed unit, but those boxes just don't exist now. So I've been looking around, and do you know what? I've decided just to stick to my own. It's an S25. It's not even got those big 36 legs, which keeps it a bit lighter, to be fair. I have put an extra tray on there, but it's had an absolute hammering, and I actually decided to even give it a little bit of a wash this month. And I think I got mine in a Black Friday deal about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've had it ever since, and it's not let me down, whatever. I've not had a single leg slip. It's just every now and then I get this urge to have a change. And you know what? I might still do, but for now I'm holding on to my Matrix box. It's nice and tidy. I've cleared all the drawers out. I've given it a good old clean. It looks brand new. So yeah, I'm sure I'll get a fair few months out of that as well. So that's it for the tackle shed, and we will reconvene in 2022 and see what else is going to be new. And on that note, that is the end of the final episode for 2021. Once again, a big thank you for everybody that's tuned in and had a listen, everybody that shared the podcast or told their mates. It's been an absolute pleasure putting these together. From what seemed like a bit of a crazy idea back in January to where we are now, less than a year later, it's been a great journey. We've had some great guests. A massive thank you to all the guests that have sat in the big chair for the big chat. And shared their stories, shared their knowledge, shared their experiences. And I know that a lot of them have enjoyed it just as much as I have. And I'm sure I'll ask some of those guys to come back for 2022. What I'd like to do next year as well, I'd like to have some lady anglers on. So if there are any ideas from the listeners who you would like to listen to from a lady angling perspective, that would be great. I'll also maybe try and diversify as well. I have approached the Angling Trust in the past for somebody to come on and talk about what they do and the benefits, and also how instrumental they were in ensuring that we could fish throughout the lockdowns previously. They declined. They said my listenership wasn't big enough. So that means I need more listeners so I can reapproach them again if that interests people. I may even talk to fishery owners as well. We did the fishery special last month with Alex. And it could be that something interests some of these fishery owners, talk about what they do, how they manage their waters, maybe answer any sort of myths that are out there, whispers of their waters, and talk about that as well. So it might be a go down that route also. So we might well diversify in 2022. I'm also conscious that this podcast is very match fishing focused, which is my game. So, it appeals to me and it appeals to the listeners so far, looking at the figures. But if people want to listen to others and other stories, then of course I could go down the specimen route as well and diversify a little bit more. But I'm all ears. I'm open to suggestions. If you drop me an email or drop me a message on social media, my email is eastwoodangling@gmail.com, or you can find my social media page at 2 Pints of Maggots and a Packet of Hooks, the fishing podcast, on there as well. So thank you once again. Thank you very much for listening. I wish you a fantastic Christmas and New Year, and we'll speak again in 2022. Tight lines.